The room was suffocatingly silent, the air thick with tension as Mrs. Thompson's eyes bore into me. Her voice, usually calm and authoritative, now trembled slightly with barely contained rage. "You will terminate that pregnancy, or I swear, you will never see either of us again." I felt the weight of her ultimatum crushing down on me, my hands instinctively cradling my still flat stomach. The decision she demanded was unthinkable, yet her threat was clear. She would cut me off from her son, James, and sever any ties to the family that had become my own over the past year. "Mrs. Thompson," I began, my voice cracking under the pressure. "This is my child, James's child. How can you ask me to?" "Don't be naive, Emily," she interrupted sharply, her tone icy. "You know as well as I do that this baby changes everything. It complicates matters far beyond your understanding." I swallowed hard, trying to steady my nerves. "Complicates what, exactly?" I challenged, anger flaring in response to her cold pragmatism. Her eyes narrowed, a calculating look crossing her face. "James is meant for someone else, someone who can provide him with the connections and stability he needs. This situation with you is a mere distraction." My heart ached at her words, not just for the unborn life within me but for the future she so blatantly dismissed. "And what about my feelings? About James's?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Feelings are irrelevant in this matter," she stated flatly. "This is about securing his future, our family's legacy. You think bringing a child into this mess helps? It only creates more problems." I stood up abruptly, unable to sit still under her relentless gaze. "So, it's all about power and control for you, isn't it?" I accused, tears stinging my eyes. She rose to her feet as well, her composure finally slipping. "Control, yes, but power? No, Emily. This is about protecting what's ours. You're an outsider, always have been. This baby would only tie you closer to us, and I won't allow that." The stark reality of her words hit me like a physical blow. She saw me as a threat, a barrier to her son's predetermined path. "And if I refuse?" I whispered, almost afraid to hear her answer. "Then prepare to lose everything," she replied coldly. "James will obey me, eventually. He always does. And when he realizes what you've done, holding on to this child against my wishes, he'll turn away from you. Mark my words." The room seemed to spin around me, her words echoing in my ears. I knew she was capable of following through on her threats. Her influence over James was undeniable. Yet, the thought of ending my pregnancy felt like a betrayal, a violation of the most sacred part of myself. "Give me time to think," I pleaded, desperation creeping into my voice. "Please, just a few days to consider everything." She studied me for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then, with a sigh that seemed almost weary, she nodded. "Very well, but don't take too long. Every day that passes makes this situation more precarious." As she gathered her belongings, preparing to leave, I sank back into my chair, the weight of her ultimatum settling heavily upon me. The door closed softly behind her, leaving me alone with my thoughts and an impossible choice. Emily found herself pacing the small living room, her mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. The weight of Mrs. Thompson's ultimatum pressed down on her like a heavy shroud, suffocating her with its implications. She needed someone to talk to, someone who could understand the depth of her dilemma without judgment. Her phone buzzed in her hand, and she hesitated before dialing the familiar number. It was Sarah, her closest friend since college, someone who had always offered a listening ear and wise counsel. Emily knew she could trust Sarah with her deepest secrets, even this one that threatened to tear her life apart. "Hey, Em." Sarah's voice came through the line, warm and concerned. "Everything okay? You sound off. Emily took a deep breath, gathering her courage. Sarah, there's something I need to tell you. It's complicated. For the next half hour, Emily poured out her heart, detailing the confrontation with Mrs. Thompson, the ultimatum, and the impossible choice she faced. Sarah listened in silence, her only response an occasional sympathetic murmur. When Emily finally fell silent, Sarah sighed heavily. Wow, that's a lot to deal with. But you don't have to face this alone. What does James think about all this? Emily hesitated, her voice trembling slightly. He doesn't know yet. I haven't been able to bring myself to tell him. He's under so much pressure from his family as it is. But he has a right to know. This is his child too. Maybe if the two of you talked it out, you could find a way to stand up to his mom together. Emily nodded, though Sarah couldn't see her. You're right. I don't know how to start that conversation. Maybe you don't have to, Sarah suggested softly. Why not arrange a secret meeting, somewhere private where you can both really open up to each other, away from prying eyes and ears? The idea resonated with Emily, stirring a flicker of hope within her. Do you think that would work? I mean, we could really talk without the fear of being overheard or interrupted. It's worth a try, isn't it? Just you and James, facing this together. No distractions, no pressures, just honesty and maybe some answers. Emily felt a surge of gratitude for her friend's insight. Thank you, Sarah. You've given me something to think about, at least. Anytime, just remember, I'm here for you, no matter what, and whatever you decide, I'll support you. After hanging up, Emily sat staring at the wall, her mind racing with possibilities. Sarah's suggestion lingered in her thoughts, growing more appealing by the minute. She needed to talk to James, to share the burden of decision-making and confront their feelings head-on. With newfound determination, Emily picked up her phone and began crafting a message to James. She chose her words carefully, inviting him to meet her at an old, secluded spot they had discovered during their early days of dating, a hidden clearing in the woods, far from the scrutiny of their families. The response came quicker than she expected. I'll be there, tonight, 8 p.m. Emily's heart raced as she read the words, a mix of excitement and anxiety coursing through her veins. This was it, the moment of truth she had been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. She spent the rest of the day preparing, both mentally and physically, for the clandestine rendezvous. As evening approached, Emily slipped out of the house unnoticed, her destination known only to her and Sarah. The drive to the woods was a blur of nerves and anticipation, her hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. The clearing came into view as she parked the car, its seclusion offering a sense of privacy and freedom. Moonlight filtered through the trees, casting dappled shadows across the ground. Emily stepped out of the car, her footsteps silent on the soft earth. James was already there, waiting for her beneath the canopy of leaves. His presence filled her with a mixture of relief and trepidation. They stood facing each other, the air thick with unspoken words and shared tension. Emily, James breathed, his voice a mix of surprise and concern. What's going on? Why did you want to meet here? She took a step closer, her eyes searching his. Because I needed to talk to you, James, about something important. His expression grew serious, sensing the gravity of her tone. What is it? You can tell me anything. Emily hesitated, her resolve wavering, but then she took a deep breath, steeling herself for the revelation. It's about the baby. James's eyes widened in shock, his voice barely above a whisper. What about the baby? Emily closed the distance between them, her hands reaching for his. Your mother came to see me. She gave me an ultimatum. James pulled back slightly, his confusion turning to anger. What kind of ultimatum? She wants me to terminate the pregnancy, Emily admitted, her voice breaking. Or else she'll cut us off. Sever all ties with your family. James stared at her, his expression a mix of disbelief and rage. She can't do that. This is our child. Emily, how could she ask you to do something so horrible? Emily shook her head, tears glistening in her eyes. I don't know, James, but she made it clear that she won't accept this baby, or me, into her world. James pulled Emily into his arms, holding her tightly. Then we'll create our own world, Emily, together. We don't need her approval or her acceptance. This baby is a part of us, a part of our future. Emily clung to him, her body trembling with emotion. But what about you? Your family? Your future? James leaned back, his gaze intense and determined. My future is with you, Emily, with both of you. We'll face whatever comes together, as a family. Tears streamed down Emily's cheeks, her heart swelling with love and gratitude. I love you, James, so much. And I love you, Emily, he whispered, his lips brushing against hers tenderly, more than anything. As their kiss deepened, the world around them faded away, leaving only the two of them and the promise of a shared destiny. Their bodies moved instinctively, drawn together by a force stronger than any external threat. Emily's fingers tangled in James's hair, his hands exploring the contours of her body with a gentle urgency. The night air wrapped around them like a blanket, muffling their whispers and sighs. They sank to the ground, the cool grass cushioning their bodies as they explored each other with renewed passion. Every touch, every caress, spoke of their commitment to each other and their unborn child. Emily arched beneath James, her senses alive with the thrill of his touch, her skin